It had been around 6 months since Nvidia released their very successful and very powerful 280 GTX. Before that came the 9800 GTX and its variants as one of the Team Green's most popular video cards of them all in the year 2008. And even before that, Nvidia turned the 3D market upside down with their Uber video card, the 8800 GTX and Ultra, in November of 2006. But even though the 280 was a quite effective card in its own right, when it comes to power consumption, there was still room for improvement. So, on January 15th, they released the fastest single GPU card at the time, the Nvidia 285 GTX. Based on the new 55nm process, the new GT200B was set out to be the greatest, and it was. So today we will look at some benchmarks and games to see what this card can do. And since we all know that you shouldn't keep video cards alone, because they need to socialize like birds, I bought it 2 friends to come along for the ride. So here we have 3 Janeward GTX 285 on the table, and that of course enables us to try 2 and 3-way SLI. And of course, we need a motherboard that is capable of supporting this Trinity. And for that reason I have chosen the Asus P5N32E SLI that you might have seen in some of my other videos. This rig is not going to stay like that, so I didn't go all monk with the cable management. Our test CPU is the Q9550, nothing too exciting, but it will do the job just fine. The system memory are 2 of OCZ's Platinum 2GB sticks, and to power this thing I will be using a 700 watt power supply made by Be Quiet. I've got a power meter as a new addition to the channel, so I can measure the power consumption in various scenarios. The benchmarks and games that I'm going to be using for this today are the following: the Unigine Tropics demo, the 3D Mark Vantage, and of course, Crysis. So let's jump right into the technical stuff. As mentioned before, the 285 GTX was launched on January 15th, 2009. Its GPU name is the GT200B, which is based on the 55nm process. It's boasting a hulking 1.4 billion transistors on a 470 square millimeter large die. The GPU clock speed is at 684 MHz, while the shader and memory run at 1476 and 2484 MHz respectively. It used 1024 MB of DDR3 memory connected to its heart via a humongous 512-bit white bus. The 285 GTX is rated at 204 watts TDP and cost around 400 euros when it was released. So, let's go to the benchmarks. Using Unigine Tropics benchmark at the DirectX 10 mode at 1280 by 1024 at standard settings, one GTX got 82.5 frames. 2 GTX got 119.1 frames, and 3 of them did 190 FPS. The scores go like that: 2079, 3001, and 4832. Alright, time for the 3D Mark Vantage results. At standard settings, one 285 GTX got 11,782 points, 2 of them 15,413 points, and 3 of them 19,489 points. Now let's go to Crysis. All the tests for Crysis were done with 3-way SLI enabled, but at various resolutions using the Crysis benchmark tool. Settings were at high, 64-bit and no anti-aliasing. 800 by 600, 51 frames. 1024 by 768, 51.3 frames. 1280 by 1024, 46.4. 1280 by 720, 49.8. 1600 by 1200, 47.6. And finally, 1080p, 45.4. As a side note here, power consumption went up to 540 watts with a test run at 1080p. Let's speak shortly about the power consumption. I monitored it when doing benchmarks with 3D Mark Vantage, and one of the cards managed to get a power consumption, and this is the whole system, of 250 watts, two of them 405 watts, and three of them close to 650 watts. The 285 is an impressive card still today, and while of course you can't run any of the modern games on it due to the lack of DirectX 11 and 12 support, I was still very much impressed with its performance and noise level. Even after some longer benchmarking sessions like the one with Crysis, the fans didn't really turn into a tornado like my Vega 64, which does that every time I open any 3D application. When it comes to 2 and 3-way SLI, I can't really report anything new here. 2-way SLI works great and is pretty much stutter-free. 3-way SLI on the other hand is a hassle. With the 285 I have to admit that it was a lot easier than with the 9800 GTX that you will be seeing in the next video, but because of stutter and other weird issues that pop up here and there, it's not really a good option. As always, thank you very much for watching.